You can let your dopamine destroy you, or you can let it define you. Your very own transformation could be on the other side of a 5-minute intervention. So, we're here for day 2, which is craving control and dopamine rewiring. And you're here today to learn how dopamine and your addiction to alcohol all ties together. And I'm going to deliver what you came here for today. Cravings for alcohol are not a lifetime condition. Are your alcohol cravings even actually real? Or have we learned to crave what doesn't serve us based on getting a quick and easy hit of dopamine, a hit that doesn't require any effort? I fell victim to this myself, and now I guide women on how to experience the best years of their life free from their debilitating addictions in their 40s, 50s, and beyond. I'm super excited to unpack this and have a discussion with you today, specifically about how to overcome your addictions and transform and rewire your mind and your body at the same time. How many mornings have you woken up full of regret, promising yourself that today will be different? You mean it with everything in you. But as the day wears on, your anxiety starts to build and your nervous system begins to feel dysregulated. And by the late afternoon or early evening, you're starting to feel like your body's begging for that all too familiar relief of wine or a cocktail. Are you ready to finally claim your peace and joy? Because this next part explains why willpower alone keeps failing you. I have a really important question for you. Do you fully believe that alcohol brings you relief? For me, the answer was a hands down yes. Another question before we move on: what exactly do we believe alcohol is relieving us from? When I was completely lost in my alcohol use disorder, I truly believed that wine equaled relief from anxiety that had been building throughout the day. I fully believed that numbing my anxiety and wanting to get buzzed were reasonable next steps. Worry was also a huge contributor for me, and a drink somehow made me believe that I could gain some kind of control over what I was feeling, because inside I was actually feeling so out of control. Willpower keeps failing you because your brain and your nervous system are already exhausted by the time those cravings hit. All day long, you're regulating emotions, you're managing stress, making decisions, and holding yourself together. And by the evening, the part of your brain responsible for long-term goals, self-control, and clarity is depleted, while the habit and stress centers, they're loud and reactive in that moment. And reaching for wine isn't a lack of discipline, it's your nervous system searching for relief in the fastest way that it knows. Until the brain is given a new body-based way to downshift, willpower alone will always lose to a stressed out system. Are you feeling lost or weak or broken and not sure where to turn for help? You might have ideas, but genuinely lack a true path and direction. Well, thankfully, you do have a starting place, and that's your very own 5-day mini reset that you can download for free from the description below. Here, you'll begin to understand the steps that you can take, just like other women have, so you can also start actually living the life that you dream about and not just thinking about it. The truth is, I fully understand your pain, because a little under 1 year ago, this was me. I didn't know what I was going to do to get myself out of this hot mess cycle that I was living every day. Looking back, I wasn't really living then, I was just sadly barely existing. The overwhelming consensus I've gained from the many women that I've talked to and guided on their alcohol freedom journey is that they're feeling helpless and they're missing the right direction and tools to help them create meaningful and lasting change. Does that feel familiar to you? What I'm about to share is the missing piece that you've never been taught about your cravings. I want you to keep choosing yourself and don't go anywhere, because what I'm about to share goes against everything most of us were taught about addiction. For decades, via outdated methods like Alcoholics Anonymous, we've been led to believe that alcohol addiction is a lifelong disease with no cure. I believe that AA has helped a lot of people over the years, and it provides people that identify as an alcoholic with a community, which is what so many people with addictions need. Here's what I don't agree with when it comes to AA: that once you label yourself an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. The cravings are something that you will need to continue to manage forever. That recovery means learning how to live with the urge to drink, and that urge is going to continue to show up. And listen, I want to be very clear here. Alcoholics Anonymous has helped a lot of people survive. It gave people hope when there was very little understanding of the brain. But AA was founded in the 1930s. That was long before brain imaging, dopamine research, and trauma neuroscience was around, and long before we understood what neuroplasticity was. I promise in a few minutes we'll go over that in more detail. So the question is not whether AA helped people, the question actually is whether modern neuroscience tells a more well-rounded story. And from my lived and learned experience, it actually does. This is where things start to shift and get really exciting for your future recovery. Neuroscience has shown us something incredibly hopeful. Your brain is not fixed, and it can be rewired through something called neuroplasticity, which is the brain's built-in ability to form new pathways, weaken old ones, and learn healthier responses over time based on what you repeatedly practice, feel, say, and experience. So if you've ever told yourself that you're too weak and you're too far gone to discover how lasting change is completely within your reach, there is now a ton of evidence that points to this belief that's been instilled in us being completely false. If I can create lasting recovery from my 20-year-long trauma-based addictions that were followed closely by alcohol use disorder, then you can be a part of this movement too. This sounds strange, but your brain is plastic and can be fully changed and renewed, which means it can adapt and rewire at any age. In fact, Paul spoke about the renewing of our minds in Romans 12:2 all the way back in the late 50s AD. And I find it absolutely fascinating how much it perfectly aligns with today's advances on the topic of modern neuroscience. I get so excited every time I think about it. Let me know in the comments if you would like me to unpack that in a future video. Any alcohol use, even in moderation, does temporarily change the brain. And in cases of chronic alcohol abuse, the effects are magnified and take more guidance and nurturing to reframe. This is just starting to get exciting, and this is the point where the signature alcohol freedom journey proven techniques I'm about to share come into play. So keep watching if you want to find out how the hope of being renewed becomes practical and not just motivational. Alcohol changes your dopamine significantly and strengthens habit loops in a direction that favors alcohol. But these changes are learned and they're reinforced by the hit of dopamine you receive after a drink. However, the good news is that they're not permanent. If alcohol dysregulates your stress response, then we can use different, new and healthy techniques to return our nervous system to a place of internal peace and regulation. When alcohol is removed and replaced with new behaviors, the brain literally rewires itself. This means that alcohol dependence is not a permanent disease. It's actually a reversible pattern of neural conditioning. Your cravings are not proof that you're failing over and over. They're proof of a brain that learns something over time, and now it's fully capable of unlearning it. And if you want help starting that rewiring process right now, my 5-day mini reset is linked in the description, and it's completely free. It will give you simple tools to start interrupting your cravings today. Let me explain dopamine in a way that actually makes sense. Every time you currently drink or have drank in the past, your brain receives a dopamine reward from the alcohol. Here's how that mental and emotional reward might show up for you. And if something really hits home, please let me know in the comments or add anything from your own experience. So alcohol triggers a dopamine response, which creates a sense of reward and comfort and emotional ease. When I was drinking to self-soothe or get buzzed, my thoughts would become more quiet, worries would feel further away, and emotions felt more blunted and more manageable. Our brain registers this dopamine response as a solution to stress and loneliness, overwhelm, and for me, a big one was anxiety. Over time, the brain links alcohol with relief and coping, not because it truly solves anything, but because it delivers fast and predictable emotional relief in the moment. So now when stress hits, your dopamine pathways light up automatically, not because you want to drink, but because your brain's been conditioned to convince you that alcohol is literally helping you to survive, whatever is happening in that moment, whether it's good or bad. When you take a break from alcohol, and make positive changes in your lifestyle, your brain starts to heal. And this healing is a really powerful thing. Studies using PET scans have shown over time that the function of dopamine receptors in the brain actually improves. So, what does this mean for you? Well, simply put, as your brain recovers, those intensive cravings for alcohol, they begin to fade. It's a reassuring reminder that cravings aren't permanent and they're not going to last forever. With sustained abstinence and healthier habits, you can regain better control over your impulses and emotions, making it easier to navigate life without alcohol. So I want you to take heart, because each step that you take towards your healing brings you closer to a life free from those cravings. Today, organizations like the National Institute on Drug Abuse describe addiction as a chronic but modifiable condition. That word modifiable matters a lot, because addiction exists on a spectrum and many people fully recover. Long-term abstinence can lead to complete remission. This doesn't invalidate AA, it simply means that AA is one model and it's not the only truth. And now I want to share something personal, because this is where it became real for me. Have you ever experienced a real in-your-face moment with alcohol that made you question everything? What I'm about to share might feel familiar to parts of your own story, and hopefully it'll have you feeling less isolated and alone. I've battled addiction for a total of 25 years. I overcame an addiction that was fueled by the avoidance of grief from my brother's suicide in 2000. And then once I finally overcame that addiction, the most perfect, imperfect storm took hold again, and alcohol quietly stepped in and took its place. I recognized the pattern immediately. I started to lead other women through 30, 60, and 90-day alcohol-free groups, where I would guide them using the same techniques that were transforming me. But still, after 90 days, I thought I could allow alcohol back in and control the amount that I drank. I was going to be fine, and I was going to be just a part-time drinker. And then just like that, alcohol crept back in again. What was so interesting to me was that my boys, who at the time were just 9 and 15, had now been conditioned to have a stress response at the very sight of me holding a glass of wine. In fact, my youngest son even accused me of being drunk on a few occasions when I was completely sober. So my boys were hurt by my drinking, and they were on really high alert. Not only had I negatively conditioned my own brain to believe that alcohol was a deserving reward, it appears that alcohol has the same ability to claim even our children as its victim. Yes, my drinking was reduced, but alcohol and my drinking was still hurting my kids. They didn't like who I became when I drank. I was suddenly reminded of what tipsy and drunk looks like through a lens of a child's eyes, through somebody that's sober, and now I could see it the way that they were seeing it. It was heartbreaking, but it was also a pivotal moment where I realized that part-time tipsy mum was no longer an option for me and my family. So this is when I finally got really serious about recovery from the beast that is alcohol use disorder. It was my only option, and my boys were my deep and my undeniable reason why. Making sure my boys were okay was going to keep me on the straight and narrow. Disappointing my kids was never going to be an option ever again. And alcohol for me was literally taken off the table. This is when I took every piece of ambition I had for my life and ran head on towards my future. I just turned 50 and I didn't have another minute to waste. I was the person my boys looked to for safety and warmth, and alcohol was standing in the way of all of that. If you can see yourself in this story, I want you to know that you are definitely not alone. And if you need a proven roadmap and tools instead of feeling more guilt, my free 5-day mini reset that finally had me and countless other women interrupting their alcohol addiction with this signature framework is waiting for you in the description below. Let's talk about the word disease. It comes from the old French word spelled D-E-S-A-I-S-E. It means lack of ease. It means discomfort, disturbance, and distress. Dis-ease is a body and nervous system that is not at ease. Alcohol use disorder often reflects chronically activated nervous systems. You're not too far gone. Your system is in a state of dysregulation. And when ease is restored through movement, breath, nervous system safety, and dopamine retraining, the dis-ease resolves. Given the right environment, our bodies are so amazing at healing themselves. You're not permanently damaged, and your brain can and will fully heal. Your past doesn't define your future, and I'm finally living proof of that. Alcohol cravings do not have to be a life sentence. I want you to know this as we wrap up. I'm not here to shame you or tell you to try harder or be stronger. I'm just here to walk beside you and give you the tools that actually work in real life, especially right in those very moments when the cravings hit. You don't need more willpower. What you really need is a nervous system reset. And that's exactly what we're focused on here. Just go ahead and click the video right above me. I'll look forward to seeing you here for day 3 as we continue this journey together inside the Alcohol Freedom Journey 5-day mini reset. See you in the next video.